Okay, yeah, welcome everybody. I want to talk about AI as many people do at the moment, but I brought with me one of my customer projects. So if you want to know what's about building an agent and assistant for customer service, then this is the right place. So I will talk a little bit about the challenges, about which decisions we made, because you have a lot of tools out there to build your agent. And we had to make a decision in our project. So I want to give you a little bit of our lessons learned right there. And if you saw me maybe on previous events or so, then you may know that I'm talking a lot about HR as a topic. Now it's customer service. I think, yes, it's important to know about the business, so about the use case. But if it comes to the technical part, then you have always to make the same considerations and so on. So if you, for example, you have another use case and you say, okay, customer service, that's not so my case, then think about another use case. I think you will see if you walk through the different slides and the live demo what you can do with this. So if you don't know me, my name is Nicole Enders. I'm a speaker on many events, if it's online or on site. So I'm traveling a lot of. I'm also an author in the German-speaking area. You see one of my books here on the slide. The next book about Teams will show up in 2 weeks, I think. So yeah, I'm doing a lot of stuff. So I have a full-time job, and then I'm doing a lot of speaking, and then I write books. And you find me on LinkedIn and X. So LinkedIn is more active than X, to be honest. And if you see here my favorite hashtags I'm using, then you get an idea what I'm doing most of. So I would say the not technical aspect is the modern workplace. So this is a huge buzzword because everything can be in the modern workplace at the current time. And AI is quite important. And if it comes to the technical part, then yes, it's Microsoft 365 and Azure and all between. So sometimes I'm doing sessions about Microsoft Teams, sometimes more about the Power Platform, like governance and so on. And yeah, I have one hobby, that's mixed reality. So if it comes to mesh, however it's called today and in the future, yeah, that's something I think it's crazy that it's not important anymore if you are at the same place or if you are at a complete different place on the world. If you want to collaborate and to talk to each other, then you can do this in virtual reality, for example. We will see what's going on there in the future. Yeah, but let's dive into the topic because we only have a small amount of time. So I want to start with the challenge. So why do we need an AI assistant in customer service? You see those people in the background here on the slide. So think about a call center like situation. So we are a company, and in my scenario today, because I love chocolate, I said, okay, I'm a vendor for coffee and hot chocolate machines. So a coffee machine, that's nice, but if the coffee machine is also able to produce really, really special hot chocolate variations, then that could be a business. And in our customer service, there are people who need to answer all the questions of our customers. So some customer didn't read the manual and he has a question about how to produce this special flavor of hot chocolate, for example. Another person has a question, if I get a coffee and afterwards I want to get a hot chocolate. The hot chocolate tastes a little bit like the coffee and I don't like this. How can I solve this problem? Yeah, and if the people would read the manual, everything would be fine, but they are not doing this, or the information is not so easy to find, so we don't know at the moment. Yeah, and then there are many other questions. So, for example, that somebody ordered a coffee machine and he wants to know the status. So, when will the coffee machine be delivered to him? Or he wants to give feedback, or there is something which isn't working. So, you get an idea. These people in the customer service, they have to be very flexible, because if somebody calls them, they don't know which questions will show up. They don't know the customer. So we want to find a good solution for them, because if they don't find the right answer, or in a fast way the right answer, then the customer will be disappointed. And maybe he will write some bad feedback on social media or somewhere else. So that's not the thing we want. And as we are a worldwide company, you need a customer service which is always available. So you have this 24/7 here. So we want to be there for our customers at every time, and it doesn't matter on which place of the world they are. Yeah, and if you think about now, people would do this job, then we need a lot of people, because maybe you know this. I had this a few weeks ago when I had to go to or call a customer service for my car because something wasn't working, and I was there in the queue, and I got a lot of music, and at the end I recognized, okay, that was the end of the call, and I didn't talk to a person. So I was really disappointed, and we don't want to have this. So our new standard is 24/7, and we get fast answers for every question of our customers. So, and we don't want to have a lot of people working in customer service, because then more people would work there compared to all the other people we have in the company. Yeah, and if it comes to the tools, then we have the manual, and for sure the manual is there in our intranet, and we have a CRM, but it's not the dynamic CRM or the several modules you may know. So we have a tool here, a tool here, and so on, and we don't get the right information quite easily. So this is a challenge we have. Yeah, we were more focusing on our products, so the hot chocolate variations, the recipes, the machines itself. So we need to solve this problem with the customer service right now. Yeah, and the vision would be that we have an AI-powered assistant. So in the Microsoft area, everything is called agent. You can get it as a synonym for the session. So assistant and agent are the same for me. Yeah, now if we say, okay, we don't want to have a call center, so with many people, we are now thinking about a technical version, so an AI-powered assistant. That doesn't mean that we will only have the AI-powered assistant. So we will have a mix. So a person who is working in the customer service will get this agent, and with this agent, he is fast. He can answer these questions. Maybe the agent will be, I would say, our first level support. So think about that this agent would be available for me as a customer on the public website of the company. So I can ask my questions, and most of the standard questions, which would be there in an FAQ or so, they could be answered by the agent. But there is one must-have. So you need a good way how to transfer the conversation from the public website, so from the agent there, to the real person when it comes to a call. So you all know this. So you're talking with an agent or a chatbot or how you call it, and then there's a moment where you say, okay, dear agent, you don't find the solution for me. I want to talk to a human. When it comes to this point, then we have the person who can be in a call center, but it can also be a person working in your company, and he gets all the information you already exchanged with this agent, and then this person can say, okay, I want to help you. I understood, yes, you are looking for this special problem. I understand this, and now to get a fast answer, this person is using the agent and gets the information, because in most of the cases, as we got in our project, the people, so the customers, are not able to really tell what they want. So they use a chatbot, they don't get the right information, so their question is not answered. But if they ask this question to a human, then this human understands the question in a different way as the chatbot would do this, and then he can add or enter the prompt a little bit differently, so he will get the correct information, and then he can give this to the customer. So it's all about empowering the human agents. Yeah, and if we think about this vision, you now have, I would not call it a problem. So we get some kind of a technical challenge, because which AI should we use? Is there already a tool we can use? How do I get an idea about all the offers out there? So I think every day when I wake up, there's a new AI tool, a new agent, a new assistant. So it's really hard for a company who's not there in the technical area to get an idea what they should use. So you can only try, you can say, okay, I check this tool and it's working in a good way and so on. But if you try this, you need to be careful, because if you add your data in an AI tool, and it doesn't matter which you choose, you enter your data, your secrets, your secret information, maybe the information which is I think some part of your USP or so. So it can be dangerous to add this data. So you need to be very careful, and you need to know what is this tool doing with your information. Where does this tool store your information? Who has access to your information? So it's a lot of to consider if you use this tool. And if you are already in the Microsoft area, then okay, maybe if you are using Microsoft 365 or you're going with Microsoft Azure, then okay, what is part of your contract? Part of your contract is that Microsoft says all your data stays your data. It's you choose a data center when you sign the contract. So maybe you are in the European Union, or you are in the United States, or you even say, for example, my information should be in Sweden, for example. Why did I choose Sweden? Because Sweden is always a data region where AI components are a little bit earlier than the other regions if it comes to Europe. And that was my first experience I made when I was trying out what's going on AI in the Azure area. Yeah, and so if you think about, okay, I want to go with Microsoft because Microsoft says, okay, my data is not used to train any public AI models. My data stays in my tenant. So in the tenant, I'm already using for maybe Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, and so on, or the tenant I'm using for my Microsoft Azure hosted apps, for example. Then I say, okay, here I feel safe. I want to start with my AI assistant. So, and then there are different building blocks. And I love the idea of this different building blocks, because there's something for everybody. And for us, as we started with our project, we said, okay, we have the challenge that we need an AI assistant for the people in customer service, so for some of our employees. And we also want to provide an agent for our customers. So 2 steps. So like first and second level support, if you think about a support scenario. So the customer can help himself, I would say, because he's reaching our public website. He knows how to use the chatbot, and if it doesn't work so that he gets his answer, then he can switch to our human agents, and the human agents get help with their personal AI assistant. And so if you think about the human agents, so our employees, then yeah, they are working with Microsoft 365 all the day. So they're using Teams, as we are doing this here in this session as well. So they're using Teams, they're using SharePoint, OneDrive, and maybe more. So they could use the Microsoft Copilot, so the Microsoft 365 Copilot, I have to say. So Microsoft 365 Copilot is very helpful to get all the information which is already accessible for the current users. So if there's something in a Word document, for example, and this Word document is stored in SharePoint or in a special team room, Teams uses SharePoint in the background, yeah, then he gets the information a lot of easier as he would do this with the Microsoft 365 search or the SharePoint search, because Copilot understands us a little bit better, because we are asking our question in natural language. We don't need to know how a search engine is working. Yeah, and we get the answer a lot of easier, because we don't get only a link to the document where the information is stored in. So we also get the quote of the information. So it's quite easily to the human agent to ask the question, to get the right information, and to get the information in a short way, so he can do this while he is talking to the customer, and he can also give the answer during this conversation. And the customer won't really remark or see that this person on the other side is using AI, because it feels like a usual way in my conversation. So maybe Microsoft 365 Copilot could be a good option, because the information is already there. Yeah, and this would work if we would be, how should I say this? If we would store our documents and our information in a very structured way, but yeah, we have, I would call it a little bit like redundant information. So we have one place where the information, so like the manual for our coffee machines and so on, so the product related information is stored in the current version. But we have also old team rooms. We have some conversations, emails, Teams chats, and so on, where I know that there's information which is outdated. The Microsoft 365 Copilot won't really recognize which information is outdated and which information is the current one. So maybe an agent can help. And we built an agent with Copilot Studio. It depends a little bit if we are using the light or the full version. The full version, as the name says, has all the different options we really want. The light version, that the old agent builder we already had in the Microsoft 365 Copilot user interface. Yeah, and with Copilot Studio, I love this tool, because it's so easy to build agents for internal usage, but also for external usage. And that was the reason why we said, okay, we check out if the Microsoft 365 Copilot out of the box can help the customer service employees. We tested it and we said, okay, the feedback is not so good, so we need to build an agent. So the next step is to check with Copilot Studio. And Copilot Studio, an agent there would work quite good. So that could be an idea to go with. But there are some cases where the Azure AI Foundry would be a better option. So the Azure AI Foundry, there you have all the different options to build your personal AI assistant. So if you are in the Azure AI Foundry, you will find both wordings, so agents and assistants. Depends a little bit how you set up your environment. But what's really important is you can get the different data sources, you can build a RAG system, you can decide which AI model you want to use. That's the difference to the Copilot Studio, for example, because Copilot Studio, there you have a few AI models or large language models you can use. In the Azure AI Foundry, you have a lot of more options. And if it comes to integration, there are also more options as you would find this in Copilot Studio. So, but we had to think about our scenario, and so our solution architecture was the following one. So we are thinking about, we have two worlds. So we have the customer on the one hand, he's getting access to the agent via our public website, and we have the customer service who is dealing with Microsoft Teams, because if he gets a call from a customer, he's using the Teams phone functionality, then he wants to use the agent in Microsoft Teams. So we have two assistants or maybe one assistant. So it depends on what you are doing with your assistant, if you can use the assistant in both options or if you want to implement two different assistants. So, and if you start with Copilot Studio, I love this idea because if it comes to the point that you need more flexibility, then you can integrate maybe the Azure AI Search, or you can add tools to access more information in Azure. So we said the solution architecture starts with the Copilot Studio and building one agent. So we'll check out if we need one agent or maybe two. We will provide this agent on the public website, and we want to integrate it into Microsoft Teams. And if there would be, I would say, a requirement of, to do more, then we have an optional backend in the Azure AI Foundry. Yeah, so we didn't need to do this with the Azure AI Foundry. We did this all with Copilot Studio. But if you want to get some selection criteria, some of them I already mentioned, how do you choose the right tools? So if it's the right tool, to be honest, we learned this in our project at a very late point, because at the beginning, yes, you have here the selection criteria, but all projects, so each software or IT project, the requirements change during the time. So if you think about it at the beginning, you need to think about, okay, which systems do I want to integrate? For us, we said, okay, we have a few documents we want to have as a knowledge for our agent. And we want to maybe integrate some other systems for our human agents, but not at the beginning. So that was a step 2. But at the beginning, we only had a few documents. So what about the data protection and compliance? So what is this information about? So think about our manuals for the coffee machines, for example. We deliver a manual for each coffee machine, so that's not a secret or a very sensitive information, so we don't need a data protection. But if you think about internal systems which are integrated into your agent, or some information which is only or which should only be available in your company, then this point is quite important. What about customizing and extending your agent? So if you want to have a special UI, for example, so in our case it was not so important. So we said if it's integrated as an agent into the Copilot, or if it's only a standard chatbot window on the public website, that's enough. But in some cases, people want to have very, very different UI layout for the AI agents. And if you want to extend your agent, so maybe you want to have a multi-agent system or whatever, then it's also important what you are doing there. So which tool does you allow this flexibility to extend your agent at the end? So if you compare only Azure AI Foundry and Copilot Studio, both have all these options. But if it comes to licensing and operational costs, then that gets I would say, a very intense discussion, because think about Copilot Studio. We want to build an agent which is provided or available at the end via the Microsoft 365 Copilot. This would mean that every person needs a Microsoft 365 Copilot license. And this license means that you have 28 euros per user per month. How many people do need this license? Everybody who's using your agent. Yeah, so that's not so easy. And operational costs, yeah, it depends a little bit on what you are doing. So if you go to Copilot Studio and you use some functionality where you need to set up an Azure subscription and pay as you go, then you have some operational costs beside the Microsoft 365 Copilot license. And if you would say, okay, forget about Copilot Studio, forget about the Microsoft 365 Copilot, I build my agent via the Azure AI Foundry, and I check, okay, how can I integrate my agent maybe then in Teams and so on, then it's all about Azure consumption, because you have the Azure AI Foundry, you have the Azure AI Search, you would probably have a storage account and so on, and everything will end up in operational costs. So you need to calculate which options is the best. In some cases, this whole factor, so licensing and operational cost, is not so important, because the people say, okay, I already made the decision that I want to have this agent integrated into Microsoft 365 Copilot. My people all already have the Copilot license, so I can forget about this in my project. But in our case, we said, okay, we need to think about this part, because this is not only building an agent, it's about the licensing as well, if you want to have the right integration, because from a business perspective, it totally makes sense that you use the Microsoft 365 Copilot for everything around this, and for customer service, you have the special agent who is focusing only on the current version of our manuals, product information, and so on. Yeah, and the last point, that's another important aspect. So how do you want to build your agent is the first step, but how do you want to maintain your agent? So is it easy to use for developers and business users? So for developers especially, do you have maybe an external service provider who is building this agent for you, and he would maintain it. This would mean other kind of operational costs, because then every time if you want to change something at your agent, you need to spend money for this external service provider. Or you say, okay, I have developers in my company, and these developers need to deal with the tools used to build the agent. So Copilot Studio is some kind of a low-code tool, so it's quite easy, as you will see in the demo, how to work with. But if it comes to Azure AI Foundry, you need some, I would say, a basic knowledge about the different Azure components, how to deal with security, with networking, and so on, because you want to have a secure solution. And so you need other skills than you would need them for Copilot Studio. Basic knowledge about the different Azure components, how to deal with security, with networking, and so on, because you want to have a secure solution. And so you need other skills than you would need them for Copilot Studio or for the M365 Copilot. For the business users, my goal is always that the business users can use an agent in a very natural and intuitive way. So they shouldn't have so much to learn. But if you go to other tools, so outside the Microsoft area, then it would be important to think about which tool integrates, for example, in the Microsoft 365 world, if the people are working there most of the time. And I said at the beginning that my customer service agents, so my people, are working a lot with Microsoft 365 and especially with Teams. So that's would be important. So if you think about this selection or the selection criteria to choose the right tools for your use case, for your people, then maybe we have to talk about some best practices. Before I go to the real world example, so to my customer project and then in the demo environment. So if I think about my real world projects, so I have some tips. Start with a clear use case. So if you don't understand the use case at the beginning, it's quite hard to build an agent. So if you want to build an agent, we need to know which problem should he solve, how should he interact, which kind of answers do we expect, and who is the end user of this agent. So if you want to think about expectations for an agent, then you need to know the people who would use this agent at the end, and you also need to know if it's only some kind of an FAQ agent, or if it's an agent which can perform actions. So think about my customers. Do they only want to get answers of regarding the manual, or do they want to change or place an order for a coffee machine via this agent? So this is a difference. So you need to think about the use case. And as I said, okay, we have 2 steps. We start with the question answer part first, and then we want to get some feedback. The second step was to add actions to our agent. Nowadays, actions, as I would say this now in natural language, actions are called tools. So an agent can have different tools. So these are some kind of skills the agent have. So which actions can he perform? That's called tools. Yeah, and we want to ensure that the human is in the loop. So we don't have an agent who is working completely on his own. We have the interaction between human and agent. So my customer service agent, so the humans get an AI agent to give the right information in a very, very short time. So, and yeah, I already talked about my problem with the outdated information, so you need an up-to-date knowledge base. So it doesn't really matter where you place your knowledge. So if it's in the Azure AI search, or if you're using SharePoint, or if you have a customer relationship management system, you need to ensure that your knowledge is up to date and you don't have multiple versions of the same information right there. Think about one additional point, because we also covered this in our project. Think about implicit knowledge. There's always a person in your company who knows something which is not written down. There's no digital version of this knowledge, and this knowledge is only available if this person is available and if this person wants to share this knowledge. You will identify this missing knowledge if you come to the right question. So in our project, it was that the person was testing. So the person with the implicit knowledge, I have to say, the person with the implicit knowledge was testing the agent and was asking a question which you needed to use the implicit knowledge. So the agent didn't know about this information, so the agent was answering in a correct way. If you say, okay, here, this knowledge, so these documents are my knowledge base. Yeah, but the person who was testing said, okay, the agent is answering in a wrong way, so we need to change something. And then I said, no, the agent is answering in a correct way, because at this moment at the project, I knew every document. So you could call me 2 a.m. in the morning, in the middle of the night, and I could answer you every question, because I was testing so much that I knew about the knowledge base. And then this person said, yes, you are right. Is the information or the answer the agent gave me was in this document, but you need to consider if you are asking in this way or in this way. And I said, yes, but if it's only knowledge which is in your head, then the agent cannot answer this correct way. So you get it. So implicit knowledge is very, very important. So, and if you want to get an idea if your agent is successful or not, then you need to think about KPIs as well. So what about response time? So how long does it take for the agent to give an answer to the customer's question, which is marked or recognized by the customer as a correct answer? So how satisfied is my customer, and do I get less tickets as I had this before? These are exemplary KPIs you can select. So we did this because tickets, that's always something which takes a lot of time. People are working on them. You need a lot of communication and so on. And the customer satisfaction is related to the response time, I would say. So you can get feedback from the customers. We did this with a feedback form. And the response time, that is probably something you can get out of the tools. So, and feedback is also something you see here on the last bullet point. So if you get feedback from the customers or the customer service agents, so the employees, you can optimize your agent. Your agent will grow during the time and give you a lot of more options. So the agent starting today will not be the agent we will see in 1 year from this day on. Yeah, in my real world example, I call it here a case study. So we are here in the customer service. We had an overloaded hotline, so people were asking a lot of questions, and the questions that was so much. So you had to be very flexible. So starting from the manual over getting information about the orders to I think getting feedback and so on. So we will see this in the agent now in a second. And we, at the starting point, we had an outdated FAQ. So there was an FAQ on the website, but we covered during the implementation project that this FAQ needed an update. Maybe you ask yourself, why didn't they only update the FAQ and everything was fine? Yes, that was something we were also talking about in one of our weeklies, but we said, okay, we can update this FAQ and we need to update this because it's some part of the knowledge base, but nowadays people want to get the answer very, very fast, very easily, and AI is the new way how to get your problem solved. So the solution was the AI bot on the website and a Copilot in Teams for our agents, and the results were a lot of fewer tickets. So we had one person could switch from that working on the tickets and could go to our coffee machine product in department. So, and as I said, we have a customer feedback form. There is a better customer satisfaction. So that are the results we got from this part. Yeah, and as I said, let's go to the demo environment. So we come here. Maybe I zoom in a little bit so it's quite easier. As you see here, we started with a Copilot Studio. So we were thinking about the Azure AI Foundry, but we didn't really need to use it. And then I said, okay, we need to create an agent. Agent creation in Copilot Studio is quite easy. So you go here to agents, and then you can start with a new agent. And it depends a little bit how you prefer building your agent. So there's the describe way. So you have a Copilot-like conversation, and the AI behind this agent builder is selecting everything you need. Or you go the structured way and you say, okay, I want to set an icon for my agent. I want to name it, give it a description, and then giving instructions. Instructions is quite important because you need to tell the AI agent, so your assistant, what he needs to do. So how should he ask questions? How should he answer? What is the right format for the answer? What does the agent need to consider during the conversation? These are the instructions, and I already did this. So if we go from the creation part here to an already created assistant, then it's here. I have here my customer service agent. I generated a picture because I wanted to have a nice picture for my customer service agent. And then I said, okay, what is the description? So I'm a virtual assistant from Nicole's Coffee and Hot Chocolate Corporation. And I help you to discover the premium coffee machines, to discover what makes them special, and so on. And then I said, okay, he can use generative AI to determine how to respond in the best way. And I use here the GPT-5 model. When you start, then you are starting with GPT-4o, but you can change this, and I will tell you how to do this. And here you see, okay, how many conversation sessions did I have with my agent? What's about the engagement? What is the satisfaction score? So the Copilot Studio already gets the information about your activities, and you can find this if you go to analytics after your agent is working for some time. But first thing when you create your agent is about the instructions. You see, I gave you a lot of instructions. I said you are helpful, knowledgeable, and friendly. You introduce yourself. So here you see it's a placeholder, for example. You can change this to every company name you already have. And here some more instructions, like, for example, keep answers short and user-friendly, so maximum 4 sentences. And you can add more or other instructions as you want, but only to get an idea what you need to do. And then the knowledge, here in my demo, I only have one document. You can add more documents if you want. So if you go to add knowledge, you will see that there's a lot of options. So you can upload files. I did this here in my case because I said it's only a demo environment, but you can also connect to SharePoint or your OneDrive. You can integrate public websites. You can go with the Azure AI search, as I said, or maybe Dataverse or Dynamics if you are using this. And you see there's more other connectors like Salesforce, ServiceNow, and so on. And these are only the featured ones. So if you go to the advanced, you see that there's much more to choose. So, and there's the, I would say, the combination. So if you would say, okay, I have maybe a custom application and it's hosted in Azure, then you could go with the Azure AI search. And in the Azure AI search, you would integrate every data source you really want. So this is your portal, I would say, to integrate everything you want outside of this M365 world here. Yeah, and in my case, I start only with this document because then it's easy to index everything. And I say, okay, if you don't find this here in the knowledge base, you can also get with a web search. So then he would search in the internet as well. If you don't want to have this because you only want to get information maybe out of our manuals and product information, then you could go with and disable this. And here are the tools, as I said. So here in my case, this is the internal customer service agent. I said, okay, I want to go with MCP. So MCP is the model context protocol, which allows us to speak via a large language model with every application which is using this protocol. So here you see Outlook, so he can get the contact information. And then there are a lot of more options you can select, but the first important point is the instructions and the knowledge you add. And here you can test your agent if you like. So, but as I said, there are a few important parts. So if this is my agent I want to use, I can check here which AI model I want to use. And as you see here, you have 40415 in the auto option or the GPT-5 reasoning. If you want to use a different AI model, then you would go with the Azure AI Foundry and then use this model. And security is also an important part. So if it goes to authentication, for example, the default is that you authenticate with Microsoft. And for example, because I have here on the other tab the difference, so the external agent. And if I go here to the settings, you will see if I go to the security option, I have the authentication on no authentication. So that was the first starting point when we integrated our chatbot in the public website of the customer. And at the end of our customer, but at the end we had an authentication that the people need to log in the public website, so they are recognized as a customer. Because if you want to get an answer for your order, then you should be recognized as the correct customer, so we can get the customer related information for you. So, but if you start on a public website, this could be an option. You will get a warning that you are doing this. So maybe I can show this before I switch back to my last slide. You will get here some warnings that you are not using authentication, and this would mean that you can only go with the public website, because if you are not using authentication, then Teams and Copilot is not a good option. But here are the channels how you could work in. And as I did this with the internal agent, here is the last point. So I say, okay, I have this customer service agent here in my M365 Copilot. I can ask questions, and here you see I also added some default questions like the hot chocolate espresso fusion. I know that's a product we have here for our coffee machines, and then I can ask this question and it feels quite natural what I'm doing. So he's answering here with the citation to my PDF you already saw as a knowledge base, and then I can use this here internally. And if I integrate this in the public website, it's a chat window on the bottom right corner, so I can work this with this as well. Yeah, and to close it up a little bit, so the next level with AI is, yeah, that would be another huge step to proactive support, so that the people don't need to call an agent. But let's first start with multi-model experience. So we saw the chat-based information. So maybe you want to do this as a voice bot, for example. And if you automate a lot of more, so you have the self-service, like placing an order, changing an order, and so on, then that would be also a good way. And so if you now got some ideas, I have a call to action. So your journey starts now. Analyze your service processes, start small, and then scale it up. And think about which tool is the right one for you to start. But as you saw in the session, there's no wrong way, because you can switch between these tools. You can scale it in this way as you really like. Yeah, that's all I prepared. So I hope you learned a lot during this 50 minutes, and please rate my session. And I think there is some more to come as sessions. So thank you very much. And if you want to contact me later on, if there are some questions when you're building agents, you find me, as I said, on LinkedIn quite a lot. So here's the QR code at the end. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Absolutely wonderful session. I'm glad we didn't have too many technical issues we've seen today.